Well, good morning. Welcome out along the riverbank. Pretty somber morning this morning. Even though this video probably isn't now going to go out for a number of weeks, it's probably going to be the last sort of official vlog I record outdoors for a while, with significant lockdown measures again coming into place here in Northern Ireland. So I thought I would try to get out this morning, back to my favourite little bunch of redheads. One of the really frustrating things is looking at the weather. We haven't really had, there's been a few mornings of sort of light dustings of frost, but tomorrow morning looks like it's going to be like sort of -3, -4. But that would involve jumping in the car and coming places, which, no. I mean, I'm still very, very local, probably 4 miles away, 5 miles away from home. But aye, it is what it is, I guess. So I really wanted to come down and really just focus on this stretch of riverbank. You know, we're hoping to get, there looks like to be a little bit of cloud on the horizon. Sunrise is probably in another, 15 minutes or so. But I'm hoping that at some point in the next hour we do get some lovely light on those trees across the way. But I might go ahead and look for a composition. I've got the 400 on, 100 to 400. I'll be playing about with that mostly today, because that allows me to pick out little details. So, right. You're not going to be able to see that there, but there's a contour of a plane up there, and it's catching some lovely pink colour. So that bodes well for maybe in about 15 minutes time or so. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. Let's get on with this. Seems quite apt. Let's reframe that. Don't particularly need a COVID sign in there. I've spoken about this so many times before, and loads of people have spoke about it. You know, one of the things I find really useful when I'm looking at trees and looking at woodland is to try to tell myself little stories, and that's no different here. And the frame that I've got kind of set up at the moment is, see, a bit like whenever I'm walking through a winter woodland and there's just a little flash of autumn colour. Sort of invert that. I've kind of come here looking at those redheads, but what we actually have is, amongst all the redheads, is just a really white kind of, I'm not sure whether it's a birch or something else, and it almost reminds me of a little bit like meeting the parents for the first time. You know, you're brought along and all of a sudden there's the mum and there's the big dad on the right hand side, and you're there with your girlfriend stroke boyfriend. You're obviously the odd one out. So I've just got it in still got 3x2, no sort of crop factor or anything on this here. Say the 1 to 400, it's probably out at about 300 mil or so. F9, no filters. Completely removing all of the water. The one probably downside to it is there's just a little bit of flash of green. I could remove that if I went to a 16:9 crop, but I think then you lose the kind of top shapes of the trees, and maybe they look less like a person. But as I've always said, digital costs nothing, so I'll probably give the 16:9 a bit of a go. Right, let's grab this shot then, and then we'll see whether we can find other stories. So the first image from the morning, where we have the young couple and then meeting the old parents here on the right hand side. As you can probably tell, we don't have a huge amount of early morning light. This is almost the natural colour of those trees. But I think this crop doesn't really work. I think it's a little bit messy down here on the bottom. So actually a 16:9 crop helps to simplify things a little bit. But I'm still a little bit concerned with just some of the sort of trees here in the background, maybe just taking your eye a little bit away from the overall scene. And of course we still don't have a huge amount of nice light here, but decent starter for 10, I guess. Still in the same spot, and in fact now focusing, if the previous one was meet the parents, now this is just the two rogue teenagers But what I really liked about it is the little sort of clump of almost like a brighter greeny moss. Now I've put on the polarizer for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted a slightly longer shutter speed because I'm including a little bit of the water, but also just to help bring out some of those colours as that sun starts to rise. Looks like there is a little bit of pink colour now. Again, there are clouds on the horizon, so who knows. And there's unfortunately no clouds right above me here, so we're not getting optimal conditions in terms of reflective light. And I've said this so many times before, a zoom lens, be that a 70-200 or a 1-400 or whatever, you could go to a little area of woodland and probably knock your socks off for half a day, even in one little area. You know, I love to put the 1-400 up to 400mm and just slowly just sort of drift myself along the scene and see what else sticks out. And quite often I'll do that when I'm finished with shooting and I'm back in the home office. I'll be looking at certain scenes and get the little aspect ratio crop and just sort of go about the scene and see whether there's another image in there, especially if it's a location that I can go back to. So I've got the polarizer on. I think this is about f9 again or something, out at about, I guess again, about 250-300mm. 2-second timer, not too shabby. So this is the little image of the rogue teenagers, and I think it's certainly a more pleasing image from a simplicity point of view. Still, this trunk on the right hand side I think is potentially causing an issue. I could maybe work on that in post with a little bit of darkening down. This is the full 3:2 aspect ratio, so if I wanted to I could maybe even simplify things even further by bringing the crop in, but I actually quite like just the other little sort of twigs and branches up on the top of the frame. And of course, as I said, bringing in a little bit of slower shutter speed on the water just to give a little bit of sort of tiny little bit of reflection, a little bit of movement. And I do quite like, as I mentioned again, is the green moss here on the bottom. I think that's a nice stand. I've just got a little radial filter in there just to darken slightly the background and bring a little bit of light into the scene. Now again, we're not getting any of that direct light and unfortunately no reflective light, but I do quite like this as a composition. So I actually moved to this different position and then had to kind of rush back because there was nothing down there, and the sun I reckon is about another 5 maybe 10 minutes away from breaking over the little bank of clouds. So still, I've come back to this position and I'm going to kind of just work on this here just to see whether we can get some direct light on those trees, because they really do sing, especially in those first sort of 10-15 minutes after the sun has started to hit them. So hopefully no more clouds develop on the visible horizon and we do get a little bit of light. Yeah, still just the 1-400 polarizer XT2 timer release. Cold fingers because of these hopeless gloves. Dog barking. There you go. There's your information for the day. The light has not yet reached the little scene that I really wanted it to come onto, and the sun is now being covered over a little bit by the clouds, and I've only got another 15 minutes or so because Nicola needs the car this morning, so it's going to be a little bit frustrating. I'm going to soak this in because who knows the next time I'm going to get to do this, because as I say, I think we're going into proper lockdown, probably meltdown as well. What a ridiculous time to start a keto diet and to give up alcohol. Dry January? Bit of rubbish. Cormorant. Beautiful. Right guys, well I am going to hang around here for another 15 minutes, try to give it the very best sort of last few minutes that I can, hopefully on the little scene, but it's not reaching the bit that I wanted it to, so I don't think that's going to happen. If it does, I'll throw up the image from there, and if it doesn't, or even if it doesn't, I'll actually put up a couple of images here at the end as well, that this place is probably going to look like tomorrow with that heavier frost and a little bit of mist and lower wind. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be here to capture it. So, but stay strong, stay safe, and well, I guess by the time now this comes out, we'll have been in lockdown for several weeks, so I'll probably be the size of a house. See you later, guys. Bye bye. Right, just recording this bit on the iPhone, so apologies for maybe the audio quality, because I don't want to keep getting the X-T4 in and out. I don't have the tripod with me at the moment. Yeah, see that? Look, oh, love a little bit of colour, and that started to develop just as I was doing that last little piece to camera. So this is where I really want to catch it, because I don't want it all completely covered in sun. I still have to pick out some of those little shadows, so back to it. So now we're starting to get some lovely early morning light on the trees, and I think you can agree that the winter coat that these trees take on really is illuminated by that early morning sun. I really love the red. Unfortunately, I think this trunk sort of draws the eye now. I could put a radial filter in there and darken it down, but perhaps even just cropping in a little bit. Again, this is really just about highlighting the colour in the tree, so I don't mind that it's quite a tight crop. Or indeed, if I kind of come on to the next image, now doing a 3:1 aspect ratio. Now that trunk of that tree is still in there, but it's mostly hidden. And I think again, just from a visual colour perspective, I really do quite like this, how the red, almost like red flames are pushing through. So I do quite like that. So this is now the perfect opportunity for the 1-400 to shine, because it really is just about picking out little pockets of colour, just slowly drifting your lens across the light and just seeing what you can kind of bring in, probably at about between 300 and 400 mil. Now the sun has not yet illuminated the little scene that I was focusing on, the little family, just the way the geography is. Now I'm hoping that it's going to. What I'm probably going to focus on now, you can probably see here, these trees here have got all of their colour, all of the light, but then these ones here, very difficult to do left and right, isn't it? These ones here only have a little bit of light at the top, so that might actually work well, just sort of that graduation from shadow to light. So let's see whether we can get something there, probably in a portrait orientation to get the length of the trees. So I quite like the image here again. I really like how the tree at the bottom is almost mimicking a flame, and the impact the light is having on those most forward facing branches, and then into the sort of deeper shadows. I do, however, think that the white balance in the top of the frame is just a little bit off. There's a little bit of a purple hue, so if we actually come into the develop module, one way that we could potentially look at that is by putting a very soft grad on there, and then to further choose the location or choose the colors that we want to work with, I'm just going to choose sort of these colors here, and then hopefully whenever we hover over our grad, you see how it's actually not affecting the tree. And so one of the things that we could do is potentially just pull some of those purples back, maybe boost the warmth just a touch, and that allows us to maybe sort of get rid of some of that purple sheen while not affecting the white balance of the tree below. Okay, and now we're back to the original image that I was shooting at the start of the morning with the little teenagers meeting the family for the first time. Now this is actually the image, the raw image, directly out of camera, no editing. But to my eye it's just a little bit brash, a little bit in your face. Also the bottom here of the frame is just a little bit perhaps untidy. So a slight reworking. I've reduced the overall exposure a little bit. I've also reduced the overall saturation a touch in the overall vibrance. And then I've selected the colours of the trees and just given those another slight little boost on the warming side. Now I still think we're faced with the problem that this branch here perhaps is a little bit off-putting, but I really love how the light illuminates these trees, and I do quite like this scene. I still think it needs a little bit of work, especially from that white balance perspective, but overall, not a bad morning.